This is Women in Linux. Welcome to the Women in Linux podcast, exposing women to information and careers in technology.
This is Women in Linux podcast with your hosts Dee Parler and Tamika Reed. Today we have Derrick Thomas, Bsides Tampa chapter president.
Well, Derrick Thomas, thank you for coming on the Women in Linux podcast. We've met over the course of a couple of years here at Bsides. I think that was our first introduction when I came up to Bsides when you had your conference. And then I turned around and I came back and I taught like a intro to Linux class. It was kind of more like a Linux/security class. I didn't get my invite back, but that's okay. I'm not mad.
We will always want you back.
It's okay. I'm not mad. But being that has been our introduction to each other and our passing, there, can you open up and for me and for the listeners about a little bit of background about who you are and then how you kind of rolled into the world of security?
Yeah, sure, Ms. Reed, not a problem. Once again, my name is Derrick Thomas. I am a native of Tampa, Florida, born and raised. I actually went to my undergrad at University of Tampa back in the day. From there, I went and I had my master's at University of Phoenix in Tampa, and I received my JD in law from Stetson over in Gulfport and St. Pete on your side of the bridge over there. When I first got into IT and tech, I believe it was in my sixth grade year in elementary. Someone came to our school to talk about computers. Back then, I'm fairly older than you are, so back then computers were still fairly new. There weren't really as many computers as you see nowadays. You had mainframes and servers, but nothing real personal. But Tandy had just came out with their TRS-80, their Trash 80, and they're coming to our school to show computers the new future for tomorrow. And someone did a demo about writing code, and what you can do with it. And I was kind of impressed because you could write a code, and we just made a simple calculator and did a couple images on the screen, but it was actually got me involved in it, and it was actually pretty fun. From there, I went to a couple of computer camps at USF. Back when I was in junior high school, my parents sent me there. And then I went along with it all throughout my high school years. And for a time in college, I tried not to get into tech because it wasn't cool back then. When you think of tech back in the 80s, you thought of somebody nerdy, and you didn't want to portray that image, especially in my neighborhood. So, but it still drew me back. It still drew me back in there. So I was originally I was a marine bio and a music major, but then I switched back to MIS, which is a version of IT. So that stuck with me, and I've been with it since then. And throughout the years, it's changed and specialized. But yeah, I've been with IT and tech for many moons. So.
Well, that sounds adventurous, and you're like the Trash 80. I actually had a Tandy when I was growing up. That was the first computer I had, but that computer never got hooked up because my mom was like, I don't know what that thing does. We're not going to do that. I was like, oh, okay. It's a computer. I'm excited. So, since you started in tech and security, back then, what in that landscape have you seen changed? Because we're in the age now that everything is digital from when you started in tech until now. What's the major thing that has changed for you in security?
One of the major things I've seen that's changed is that there's no more master of one or a master of everything. Back in the old days, when you had the IT department, there's always that one person, either a male or female or whoever it is, they knew everything about computers. Nowadays, you don't have that because it's so specialized now. If you can say, I know everything about network, that is such a niche field, or encryption, or data transmission, et cetera. So there really is no more I'm a master of everything now. I'm a jack of all trades currently. In today's IT environment, you have to specialize. There's no way you can know everything about everything. It's okay to briefly know about different topics of IT, but most people now will specialize. So yeah, that whole one-man shop or one-woman shop is gone nowadays.
So in that space, what was your focus back then versus what's your focus now? Like a lot of people talk about, hey, if you want to get into security, get the Security Plus. I'm kind of a proponent of, if you want to get into security, know how networking works, understand security on a basic level in terms of Security Plus, and understand either Linux or cloud. But that's just me. What would you say would be like an intro that someone would need, now versus what they needed then?
Back when I was getting into tech, my whole thing was networking. I wanted to be a Novell network engineer. Once again, I'm dating myself, since I don't think anyone even knows what the heck Novell is anymore. But
I do.
Yeah, that was okay. You're dating yourself now. But yeah, that was the main thing there: networking, computers, seeing data being passed back and forth. You would do some attacks in the middle, trying to actually see what you can actually go back and forth. But yeah, nowadays like I said, it's changed a lot. If you're interested in getting into security nowadays, you really want to try to have a diverse background. You want to try to know something about programming. You want to know something about TCP/IP stack. You want to know something about encryption. You want to know something about a little bit of everything. So if you're interested in getting into security, I usually recommend someone to actually study as much as you can on all these different topics. You don't have to be an expert at them, but you have to know some of the basics of it. And I usually recommend that you start with the CompTIA certifications. CompTIA is an organization that offers a broad range of different certifications, from Network Plus, A Plus, Cloud Plus, etc. These certifications are a great introduction to the field. It gives you an idea of the subject matter. It's like I've taken a lot of them. They're all pretty good. And it's also a great stepping stone into the more specialized certifications. So a lot of times I would, I'm the president of our ISC Squared Tampa chapter, and I would always get people who ask, well, I want to get my CISSP, or I want to get this certification, that certification. How do I do that? And I will always point them back to CompTIA. Now, CompTIA and ISC Squared are not the same company. I'm not a sales pitch for either one of them, but I usually recommend go to CompTIA first, because the higher level certification, they usually require you to have some type of experience, which most high school or college kids don't really have. CompTIA doesn't really require that. Now, like I said, I've taken the Security Plus and their CASP, which is kind of like a more advanced Security Plus, and they're actually pretty good tests. They won't test you just on one thing, but test you on a broad range of different topics and the different domains. And it gives you a stepping stone to a higher certification like the CISSP. So, yeah, so if you're looking to get into security, look at taking some of the CompTIA certification tests first, and then if you're doing great on those, then I recommend you move up to one of the harder ones.
Yeah, now you mentioned the hard ones. So it kind of leads into our next question. And I get this question a lot in terms of getting that CISSP. So I work with a lot of security engineers quite often. And, well, not quite often, but every day. And most of the security engineers that I talk to who have gotten their CISSP are more like, for lack of a better phrase or word, paper pushers. And they're like, I'm tired of pushing paper. I want to do something technical. Now, I guess the question would be is, if you want someone to have, to be in security and have tech skills, what would you recommend, outside of the Security Plus, what tech skills would you recommend for someone to have? And if they try to go to the CISSP, how would that actually translate as well too?
Well, with the CISSP, it breaks it up into what they call different domains. A domain would be a particular topic or a subject matter. And I believe in the CISSP, there's 12 different domains you'll be tested on. So they may range from encryption, networking, legal matters, a little bit. With the CISSP, it's a mile wide but an inch deep. So some of the skills you may want to work on is networking. Learn the whole TCP/IP stack. Learn what each level does. Learn about encryption. What is the difference between AES versus DES, et cetera? What's the different protocols that are used? How are they different, et cetera? With programming, just learn some of the basic commands. For instance, if you see code, what is a variable? How are they defined, etc. All of these topics will help you with the CISSP because, like I say, you will be tested on all those different subject matters. Maybe not into real great depth, but you need to be aware of them all. So, and it's with the CISSP, because you're being tested on such a broad range of topics, what most people will do, they'll say, okay, there's 12 topics. There's no way in the world I'm going to master them all. I'll master 11. That 12th one, I'm gonna do about as well as I can. And so you try to, hedge your bets and hope that you have more questions on encryption than you would for legal matters. So but programming is also a great tool that you would definitely need. What are some of the programming is also one of the things I recommend. If you get into IT, there's a couple of skills that you need to have in general if you want to make it in the IT community. Programming skills are one of them. Now, which ones do you have to have? Doesn't really matter until you want to specialize. But first, I just recommend that you take a basic programming class. This could be a programming class in COBOL or something like that. I say COBOL because it was always one of my favorite courses. It gives you a good background on many of the same functions that you'll find in Java, PHP, etc. And it's not really difficult for you to learn. So, and you can usually find some free courses online also. But that program is also good. Networking, how are networks set up? What is FTP? What is a secure way to transmit data over the internet, etc. Learn about Linux, of course. My shameless plug for your group.
That's right.
Yeah, because Linux is such a well-known operating system. Like I say, in the business world, a majority of systems that you'll find will run Linux, Unix, or some other different variation of it. By learning and become familiar with it, it'll actually help you stand out more than someone else. Also, learning Windows operating system. Now, most people have Windows on their PC or laptop. You click the button and it starts. That's great. But you want to know a little bit more how it actually works. Go into your settings and see how the features are enabled, how they get turned off, etc. So become more familiar with Windows. Not just the high level things like, I can turn my browser, I can get to Facebook. That's not really learning anything about Windows. You learn how to use applications. But learn about how the operating system works and how the settings control works. Also, in today's world, some type of mobile operating system is also a key. More people actually access the internet on a mobile device than a traditional laptop or desktop computer. And that's becoming more and more popular now as phones become smaller and more powerful now. Mobile operating systems are pretty much almost everywhere. All these different types of devices. All these different types of devices. So having some background in how mobile operating systems work, like I said, they're a little bit different than your traditional desktop operating system. But having some background in it will actually help you stand out a little bit more. And in IT field, there are a couple of soft skills which I definitely have to recommend that you work on if you want to actually move up in the field. One is technical writing. as IT folks, we stink at really writing. It makes sense to us when we write it down, but remember, a lot of times you'll be asked to write something for a person who has no idea about technology. So you need to be able to write it in a way that it makes sense from the knob, from new person up to the expert. So technical writing is one skill that as anyone in IT needs to work on. I work on my technical writing also, so it's not like I'm just saying, oh, it's just you new folks. No, everyone needs to work on technical writing. And also public speaking. In the technology world, IT folks get labeled as that person that you don't really talk to. You just send them an email and walk away from them. And it's mostly because we have issues with public speaking. Either we get nervous, have problems talking, can't really communicate on the fly. So working on public speaking is a great attribute that anyone in IT should have. When I worked in my public speaking for a long time. When I was younger, I didn't really talk until I was like 5, and I was diagnosed as having a mental disorder or mental disease or whatever because I didn't really talk. And then when I did talk, I really had a real bad stuttering problem. So I worked on my ability to speak and talk, and even now I go to Toastmasters, I speak there, I speak at I'm an adjunct professor at a school, so it gives me more opportunity to speak in front of large crowds, and that actually helps me a lot, just not personally, but also in my career also. So those skills are what I would consider are the necessary skills for anyone who would like to get into IT and stay in IT.
And I agree with those skills. We just did a conference speaking panel on Wednesday. On about, how to get your talk together, how to submit your talk, what conferences to look for, what and in terms of value and so forth. So it was an hour and a half long on, how to get your talk together and, like you say, a lot of times most people are nervous or they overthink it, and then a lot of times people are like, I don't think I'm good enough. And you'll find that throughout the tech world, that's just a lot of things that people think. And just in general, that's just what a lot of people think until you do your first one, until you go to a conference and you see somebody else do it. And you're like, I could have did that. Like you have to have that visual of, someone doing that, sometimes you don't. But I agree with being able to talk, and being able to talk helps you with your writing and vice versa. So when you're writing out your talk, and you're going over it in your head, things start to flow, and you start to like, oh, I remember this resource. Let me go look that up. Let me pull this. So it all helps, which in turn helps you teach other people to come on board and helps you sell your idea too in tech. You're all about selling your idea on something as well. So I think they all kind of go hand in hand. Learning how to talk, or the gift of gab, as some people would like to say, really is a good skill to have, because now you can at least articulate what you wanted to say, or you can write out what you want to say, one or the other. Some people are better at writing, some people are better at talking. Either one, just, I think are great skills to have all the way around.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times I recommend that people go to these different conferences or even submit their talks. So if you're in the Central Florida area, you always have Bsides Tampa. That's a good place if you want to do a talk and you're new at it, that's a great opportunity for you. But also, like I said, working on your public talking skills actually help out a lot, because you will be asked from time to time to explain something to a manager. And remember, that manager probably has no idea what the heck you're talking about. They're only aware of budget issues. So you need to be able to actually communicate your reasoning or your approach to them. So working on your public speaking will help out a lot, and you'll be surprised how popular that becomes. One position I was hired at a company, I was hired. One of the things they liked about me was they said I had an American accent, which kind of confused me. I'm like, what is an American accent? And they said that, yeah, you could actually speak without slowly pause and say, and convert tech speak over to normal talk. So, yeah, it definitely pays off a lot by working on it. And with me, I like doing some talks and doing teaching because it helps me better understand it. If you can take a technical issue and teach to another person, it helps you better understand that topic also.
You're listening to Women in Linux.
And so with that being said, when we're talking about security and so forth, how do you incorporate, if you do at all, you may be on the other end of with the Agile and the Sprint code, like do you have a method or some type of, I guess, flow chart of like, hey, we're going to run a STIG on this machine or we're going to harden this machine up front, or you wait to the end to do it? Most of the times we're done at the front, so that way all the hard problems are taken care of. But how do you implement, security when you're talking about code design or Agile or Scrum or rapid deployment or continuous delivery? How do you handle that when you're working with developers, or you may be teaching someone who is a new developer or someone who's coming in new in security? How do you handle that?
With most of our code deployments or any type of code development, we try to work with an isolated server first in our own separate environment, either virtual or actually physical environment. And with security, I always tell people that there's no such thing as a rush job. You need to actually take your time, because with security, the minor things that you forget are the ones that will be exploited. So we always recommend that, okay, take our time and let's make it a logical time frame of how long it will take. And, yeah, we do all of the hardening on the device before it actually is deployed in production, because you really need to test and make sure, because the last thing you want to do is actually make a change to production and impact the business environment. A long time ago, I worked at a company, and we were experiencing a denial of service attack where people are constantly pinging us, locking us out. So one of the network guys and developers say, okay, we can prevent that by blocking ICMP traffic, which, yeah, that will stop people from, constantly pinging us and bringing out our devices. But the problem was it also stopped legitimate traffic. So that happened because it was a rush decision. So in security or in tech or anything in general, you always want to take your time, and even though you're being rushed and asked to do things at a quick pace, you may want to be careful about that. If you're constantly asked that, then you may want to check with your manager to see if that's really a company you want to work for. But yeah, that's my typical advice there. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, in terms of any recommendations on books, websites, or podcasts that you keep up with in terms of the latest and greatest in security, or the way you see security is shifting to? Is there any recommendations there?
Yeah, there's a lot of different. I'm what you call a low budget educator. I like to keep up on tech stuff. I'm not really into paying for it. So I try to look at a lot of different podcasts. If you're new to IT and tech, there's a few podcasts I can recommend for you. Now, with these podcasts, if you're new in the IT community, you may when you hear the first podcast, you may understand like 10% of it. Don't get discouraged. That's normal. Remember, you are new. It takes time. You have to crawl before you can run. But the more you listen to it, the more you hear these phrases and these buzzwords, you'll say, oh, I understand that, I understand that, I understand that. And before you know it, you are becoming, acclimated into the field. One that I recommend is a podcast called Security Now with Steve Gibson. He does a weekly podcast. He talks about some of the new things that are going on in the IT world for that particular week. It's actually a pretty good podcast. He's actually a pretty nice guy. He has a couple of different tools, such as the Haystack password tester that I use a lot whenever I try to convince people why you shouldn't use a 4-character password versus using a 12-character password. But yeah, it's a great podcast. Once again, it's free, so it was for me. If you want something a little bit more technical, there's another podcast called Security Weekly. I'm also one of the co-chairs for Bsides Tampa. One of the founders of the Security Bsides Conference named Jack Daniel, not the drink, that's his real name. He actually hosts Security Weekly podcast, and one of our folks, Bo Bullock, he's also on that podcast also. It's a great podcast, goes into a little more technical detail regarding some of the IT issues. So like I said, if Security Now was too light for you, go start listening to Security Weekly, and both podcasts try to hit the range of topics. They don't just talk about coding or network, IoT devices. They try to hit everything. So you're not just, I'm a coder, why am I listening to this stuff? Well, they hit everything. So they'll probably hit on your topic also. But it's a great podcast to listen to. Also, if you on Twitter, sign up. If you're on Twitter, make sure you follow Bsides Tampa. It's our Twitter account. We always try to post different articles each week regarding new topics or new discussion in the IT community. We select various topics. So, yeah, it's a great thing to follow if you're on Twitter. With books, if you have time, there's a book called Ghost in the Machine by Kevin Mitnick. For you young folks out there, Kevin Mitnick was a famous black hat hacker back in the day. But it's a good book because it actually shows the negative side of hacking. Right now, we're going through a new age in IT and technology where, because of TV shows like CSI Cyber and all this other craptacular shows, they make hacking look glamorous or look like it's something great you want to do. Kevin was actually arrested and went to jail for a couple of times for hacking. He never really did it for money. He just did it for the heck of it, for fun. But it shows that, hacking is actually a crime. You will go to jail for it. You will spend a lot of time in solitary confinement. And yeah, he only did it for fun. He didn't really think he was actually impacting anyone, but it actually dispels a lot of the myths that you hear. For TV shows, I have issues with a lot of the TV shows nowadays that portray computer IT because they're really unrealistic, and it always scares people. I can't tell you how many times my manager has come to the office because he's seen an episode of CSI Cyber or Silverfish or whatever, and says, "Can they do that?" And you have to explain to them that no, that's not realistic. That's crap. And each year we host our B-side conference, and one of the things that we do at our conference is called a Capture the Flag tournament, where it's a hacking tournament. A lot of companies, a lot of places we actually try to have our conference at, once they hear about that we're doing that, they automatically cancel our reservation or say, we can have you guys here, but you can't do that because we saw something on TV where you guys are going to destroy the building, make the air conditioning blow up. I'm like, so a lot of these shows give a negative life. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an episode of CSI and see two people typing on a keyboard and people think that, that can really happen. No, that can't happen. It's crap. If you want a realistic view of IT community and security, I usually recommend a show called Mr. Robot on USA Network. It's pretty much one of the most realistic TV shows you're going to get. Jeff Moss, he's also known as Dark Tangent Online. He actually helped create the DEF CON IT security conference in Las Vegas and Black Hat. He's actually the technical advisor for the show. He actually makes sure that it's as realistic as possible, even to the screens, and even to the keystroke that a character actually uses and type. So they try to keep everything as realistic as possible. And you can see what is actually possible, what isn't possible. So computer hacking is a growing issue, but it's not as bad as we think. And people just can't hack your stuff by, a 8-year-old just can't pick up a computer and wind up hacking the Pentagon. That's impossible. So yeah, those are my recommendations there.
And I'll watch Mr. Robot, and I do follow Security Weekly. I've been trying to get in touch with Mr. McCary. He was on there a while back, and he does some security training, but I haven't been able to get in touch with him. But I do follow Security Weekly as well too, and a few others that I follow as well. But what I also have learned is when it comes to security training has been kind of one-sided. Mm-hmm. In terms of, if you went to CompTIA or was a worker retraining program, they'll tell you go get your Security Plus and then you'll get a job. And then it's like, no, you need a little bit more than Security Plus.
Yeah. Pump your brakes, pump your brakes.
Yeah. So anything you can do to supplement that is my encouragement. Anything you can add to that. Like, you did your Security Plus, now follow up and start subscribing to maybe a newsletter or, somebody's website, or read another book and start writing articles on those books that you've read, and, start diving off and start learning a little bit more each time, because that's really going to kind of help you, not necessarily brand yourself, but it just puts you in a better light. Where you can start doing hey, I went and got the Red Hat security guide, and I went through everything in there, and now I'm going to write an article about it. Well, you just kind of help your case, because now you're like, okay, I did a little Linux. I may not know as much as I should, but I know how to read the security guide, and I know how to harden that particular machine. I may have to work on automation because I'm doing it manually, but that's going to come in time, right? You don't wake up just doing automation. You don't wake up just writing bash scripts, even though you should, but, it just doesn't happen overnight. And, those are great recommendations for anybody.
One thing I also want to mention is certifications, because a lot of times you hear people argue about you don't need certifications. Certifications are a lack. It's a waste, blah, 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 because a lot of really smart people aren't certified. Back in my day, a lot of real top IT folks didn't even go to college, mainly because they didn't have college programs for that stuff back then. Certifications are there for a reason, because IT is a field where pretty much a lot of people lie about what they can and can't do. I have interviewed people, and you look at their resume, and they say that they can do this, that, and raise the dead. But then when you talk to them, or after they get hired and they're in the workplace, you realize that this person really has no clue as to what the hell is going on here. So certifications are there to actually show the employer that this person is knowledgeable in this particular topic. They may not be an expert, they may not be the master of this or that, but they are knowledgeable in this topic. They can be trained to learn a little bit more. So, just because someone has an alphabet of letters behind their name, don't think that, okay, they're the smartest person in the world. No, they just passed. They're good at standardized tests. But I do recommend you get a certification. Don't get me wrong there. But like I said, don't think that, I'm done now that I have this certification. There's always additional training that you can do. Even though I have certification, I still take additional classes. There's a website called Cybrary.it. Cybrary is a good free training resource that I use a lot. They have a lot of different videos. They have an online lab that you can use also, and it's a humongous range of topics, from IT auditing to data encryption to the GDP, the new EU data standard that replaced Safe Harbor a couple of years ago, to networking, the CISSP, the CISA, et cetera. So, and like I say, it's all free. They even have labs that are available also. So if you're looking to continually improve your skills and you don't really want to actually have to pay for anything, because, hey, gotta stretch those funds here. Cyber is also a good resource. Metasploit is a great penetration testing tool, let's say that. People use it for other reasons, but they also have a lot of free training classes and resources, and they have their own virtual OS that you can work on called Metasploitable. There's a lot of free tools that are out there that a lot of companies will want you to take. Even IBM has gotten onto the game, and they also have a free virtual lab that you can test and get certified in all their products. So continue to expand your background. Don't stop because you have a Security Plus. I'm done. No, you still need to continue to learn. And even though you don't use those skills in your current career, you'll be surprised. Maybe a new position in your company will come up and they're looking for someone with the skills that you have. Or you may say, you know what, I'm tired, I'm going to quit and leave this company. And the other company that you want to work for actually is looking for someone with those skills. So, continue to work even though you may not use those skills anytime soon. It's great that you actually have those skills with you can put on your resume and make you look more marketable.
Exactly. Now, in terms of, you've been in the game for a while, what has been your biggest challenge in security? You're not to the point where you almost lost your job, but what has been, one of your biggest challenges?
Constant changing technology, and also the speed that technology has actually developed over time. It's developed so quickly, it's hard to actually implement security in a lot of things. A good example of the IoT devices, you have a lot of people with baby monitors, with motion sensors, et cetera, that are internet connected. These devices came out really quick, came out really cheap. Because of this, it's hard to actually implement any type of security in them because the manufacturers, hey, I'm making a $20 baby monitor. You think I really give a crap about, logging into it, fixing it up? No, make the consumer do that. And most consumers aren't going to log into a baby monitor, pull up a bash shell, change a couple of drivers, remove these IDs, et cetera. They're like, hey, if it works, it works. So that has been a big issue because technology has grown and developed so quickly that, and because when new technology comes out, there's no time to actually look at it from a security perspective. We only want to look at it as from a consumer perspective. Is it something that the consumer wants? Yes. Push it out. Don't care. All right. We got to have it out there. So that has been one of the major concerns there because a lot of times when new products come out, I won't buy it for another year because I know something bad is going to happen with it, and I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the test monkey. So yeah.
Come on, do it for everyone. Do it for society.
Be the test. I was the person who used to wait in line for the new version of Windows back in the day where you should camp out. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wait. Give me a year to Service Pack 1 is released, then I'll go ahead and get it. But until then, let someone else handle it.
It's okay. We know you went to BitTorrent. I'm just playing. It's okay.
I ain't gonna admit a crime there. Yeah.
So, in your experience, have you ever had a mentor, or do you mentor anyone now, if possible?
I've always had a mentor. Usually, you would find someone. It's either someone in the company. Some companies now are making a actual attempt to actually assign you a buddy or mentor whenever you're hired. But I was always lucky enough to actually have someone who was there in a senior position of me that actually mentored me and actually guided me through the way. Mentors actually do help. They don't really have to talk to you every day or something like that, but whenever you have a question on this or that, it actually helps. And I do mentor also. Right now I don't have any mentees at the moment. But I have done that in the past though.
So back to a question, or back to something that you mentioned earlier. How would one get prepared for a CTF?
To get prepared for a CTF, that is a great question there because right now you're starting to see a lot more advertising for hacking going on than how to actually stop hacking, how to become a hacker, etc. There's a lot of different classes you can take, which usually costs a crap ton of money. My group is actually having a class on the August the 19th about how to compete in a CTF. It's in Tampa at South University, and on a Saturday for everyone who has a real job Monday through Friday. This is actually a hands-on course where we actually will sit you down and we say, these are some of the most popular penetration testing programs, such as the Metasploit or NNAP or Wireshark, etc. We're going to show you quickly how to use that and how you actually will use that against a packet or another device, etc. The class is 6 hours long. For the first 4 hours, we'll actually go through some of the popular penetration tools. In the last 2 hours, we'll actually sit you down and you'll actually compete in a real CTF where we'll give you here's the questions. Now go ahead and try to either break into the device or try to unencrypt something. So, yeah, that's a class we have coming up on the 19th. And if you're still interested in doing more on penetration testing, we're actually having another class in September called A Hacker's Guide to Metasploit. Metasploit is a very popular, we call it a penetration testing program because hacking is illegal, hint, hint, hint. But it is a very popular tool that is available that there are actually some legitimate reasons to use it. So we will be hosting a one-day class on a Saturday, of course, in September. Most of these classes are only $30. We're a non-for-profit organization, so we don't really do it for the money. We just do it just for the fun of it. And for $30, you do get food and everything for it. So it's a great resource. So yeah, those are a couple of classes you can actually come to and open to the general public.
You're listening to Women in Linux.
And one final question. In terms of your view of security and getting the CISSP, I'll tell you what I think. I think the hardest part is keeping the cryptography together. Yeah. and understanding what goes with what. Do you have anything else that you think is hard, and do you have a good method or a good solution on how to study?
Like I said, with the CISSP, you got to realize you're not going to be master everything. So you have to pick and choose which ones you want to work on. Encryption is always going to be the one that everyone hates. I'd rather take a beating than do encryption over again. But you try to get it as well as you can, and then try to focus on the other topics that you hope will actually help balance it out. What I usually recommend, on the internet you'll find a lot of different brain dumps or like fake actual tests. With IC2, all these tests that you find online are crap. IC2, they actually check and make sure that none of their questions have ever been leaked. But I recommend that you use them because you want to get used to those sample questions as much as possible, because you may know the knowledge, but it's not really do you know the knowledge, just do you understand the question. So take those sample tests, as many as you can, and just take them over and over again. When I studied for the CISSP and the other certifications, every weekend I would go to the library someplace and take a sample test and take them over and over again. The knowledge is difficult, but it's also a battle of attrition, because the CISSP is a very, very long test. And you'll find that a lot of people will just lose all concentration after hour 4, but you still have a couple more hours left. So you need to practice doing those tests over and over again at that length. If you're not used to sitting for a 6-hour test, week 1 or test 1, start doing a 1-hour test, then a 2-hour test, then a 4-hour test, until you can build up a tolerance to take a 6-hour test, because a lot of really smart people have a hard time passing because you just aren't used to sitting that long and having to stay focused for that long. And you will think that 6 hours is forever, but when you're taking the test, it flies by quickly. And the last thing you want to do is sit there and have to keep going over the same question because you just can't focus. So encryption is going to be rough. It's a known problem unless you're really into encryption. Focus on another topic you think that can balance it out. Find a whole bunch of sample questions. There are a lot of sample questions online you can find. Take them over and over again. Do not believe that those sample questions are actually questions from the CISSP. They're not. Trust me on this one. If someone says you can pay for real questions, there are no such thing as real questions available out there. The only real questions are the ones you're going to take on your test. But there are great tools to use to get the experience of taking those tests, taking those questions over and over again. So feel free to take them and practice over and over again and build up that tolerance for that 6 hours.
Yeah, I read the article on it, and they were saying that bring your snacks and they'll put it in the refrigerator, but you would not be leaving the area or anything of that nature. It is 6 hours strong. And I was like, I don't know any test that's 6 hours long except maybe the CCIE. I think it's a 2-day exam. They might have changed it, but I remember it was 2 days that you had to get everything up and running. So
like I say, it's not impossible. You just need to work and build up the tolerance for it. And like I say, if I can pass it, anyone can pass it. I'm not really as smart as pencil in the cupboard, but just build the tolerance for it, and you'll do fine.
Yeah, what I remember when I was aiming to go for it, and they were saying that the CCIE is a monster, and you have to do it over 2 days, and you build it, you go in and you set everything up, and then they come in and they destroy it, and you got to troubleshoot to figure out what happened. So that kind of thing. I was like, oh, that's daunting. Well, we're coming up on the end of our time, and this is what we consider your shameless plug. And here you get a chance to shout out anybody you want to shout out. You can big up Bsides, or you can big up yourself or your family, but it's all up to you. Who you want to shout out, feel free. Here you go.
Shouts out to my family for putting up with me for breaking half the stuff that I bring into the house and having to throw it away later on. Shouts out to all my friends who I actually stole stuff from, either software or code or whatever. Shouts out to everyone with Tampa Bay chapter ISC Square. They put up with a lot of stuff, but hey, it's a great group to be with. Also, Bsides Tampa. If you're looking for a IT security conference and you don't feel like flying out to Las Vegas or California, Bsides Tampa will be February the 17th, 2018 at Stetson University in Tampa, Florida, from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Last year we had a lot of great speakers. We had Eric O'Neill. He was a former FBI agent who helped bust FBI mole who worked for the Soviets, and they made a movie out of it. We also had Kevin Polson. He was a former Black Hat hacker who was arrested, and now he's a writer for Wired magazine. This year we have a lot of great events coming up. Also, the cost of your tickets will range around $30 to $40, depending on if you're a student or not. But if you're a student, we have special discount rates. Like $5 per ticket. And your money is actually going to our charity. So, like I said, we're a not-for-profit, so we just do it for the fun of it. Feel free to come, and I believe that's my shameless plug for the day.
And Derrick, thank you for offering great advice and information, and as well, thank you for your time. Again, like you said, Bsides, catch it. Also, on a flip note of that, do you ever work with the other Bsides around the nation?
Yeah, we're all are together. We're kind of like McDonald's, where we're all under the same umbrella, but we all are independent. But we all goof off with each other a lot. I know the folks at Bsides Orlando, the folks at Bsides Jacksonville, the one in Bsides Las Vegas, et cetera. So there's a ton of different Bsides conferences going on throughout the entire world. So wherever you go, there's a different Bsides conference. We had a few people from Bsides Chicago come down last year to come to ours, and some from Bsides Las Vegas. So we all work together and exchange horror stories and have a good time. And we always sometimes we try to all meet at DEF CON in Las Vegas to bitch and moan and complain. So it's a great event if you've never been to a Bsides conference. Ours is the best.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And again, thank you, Derrick, for showing up, and thank you for all the work that you do. Hopefully we can collaborate again next year with Women in Linux and Bsides to do some stuff. We're looking to expand a little bit more into security and get some people, I consider security like a basic fundamental of training, just something you just need to have. So I'll be reaching out a little bit more, and we'll take it from there.
All right, I'll be looking out for you. So, yeah, feel free to contact whenever you are free. I am definitely interested in having you back.
Most definitely will come back with a vengeance.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to the Women in Linux podcast. Women in Linux is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization created to get women involved in the field of IT using Linux as a foundation. You can connect with Women in Linux through social media at Women in Linux on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To join weekly meetups, go to meetups.com/Women in Linux. For more information and to connect with Women in Linux, go to www.womeninlinux.com.